What's up, guys? My name is Andrew. I'm with Carbon Precision, and this is Taylor. And we are going to talk a little bit about our journey in precision rifle shooting, practical rifle shooting, and talk a little bit about... This is stupid because your brain starts thinking 3 steps ahead.
Yeah.
So we'll go again. It's terrible. All this just gets deleted. What's up, guys? My name is Andrew with Carbon Precision, and this is Taylor. We're going to talk a little bit about our journeys in practical rifle shooting, and we're also going to talk about what you need to consider when you're getting into the shooting sport. Taylor, tell me a little bit about your history and how you got into shooting.
Okay, so I grew up on a ranch and we deer hunted. Got my first rifle when I was 14. Shot with my dad on Sundays. We shot Sunday afternoons at a friend's house and got to shoot a lot of different rifles and learn a lot about life and a lot about rifle systems. Kind of got into the precision rifle thing when I was starting to learn about ballistics, and also wanted to see if I could acquire more skills and add that to my repertoire as a hunter, and kind of got me into the practical rifle side of things, and thought it might be cool to try some matches out.
Right on. So I grew up shooting pistols, 22, out at my grandma's farm. Had a lot of fun learning to shoot, safety, all that kind of stuff. It's always been a social thing with our family, so we go to my grandma's and we spend time together and learn from each other and just have a really good time. So a couple years ago, I graduated from college, and I started with concealed carry and learning about pistols, moving into the AR spectrum, learning about AR type stuff, ballistics, and all of that. And then I actually picked up a hunting rifle and started shooting that at 100 yards and thought, this thing is designed to shoot out to 1,300 yards. Why am I shooting at 100 yards? So I started researching different types of matches and different styles of shooting and came across precision rifle series type matches. Started out in kind of the Missouri area, and there's a ton of them out there, and I just started, went to a match, learned a lot, and talking with other guys. Everybody's is super nice at matches. They're willing to help. They'll say, hey, use my bag when you're doing this type of barricade, or you're doing this type of stage. This is what you want to do. This is what works for me. That kind of stuff. So great community. So I took the approach of run what I got. So I had a little Ruger hunting rifle, slapped a SWFA Super Sniper fixed 12 power, and went to a match, and learned a lot about rifles, because my perception of rifles, or my knowledge of rifles, was pretty narrow at that time. So that's what I decided to do, is just get into it and learn along the ways. And we're going to talk a little bit on the next video about our new rifle setups that we both just finished, and so we'll be shooting this season. But Taylor took a little bit different approach, so if you want to talk to him about that.
Right, so with getting into hunting and wanting to be able to stretch my ability to shoot proficiently, I started studying ballistics at the same time I was in college, and so I was learning everything I could learn. I picked up anything reading material wise that I could, watched videos on YouTube and everywhere else, and basically read everything out there I could possibly read, I think, for free. And I got into reading Brian Litz's books, and really enjoyed some of the information I also got on the hide, and just really enjoy reading about ballistics and load development and rifle selection and gear stuff. And so did a lot of that while I couldn't afford to shoot more, and started investing in good gear. Started out with a reloading setup, and then got into my rifle build, and from there, just kind of getting to where I can use a rifle to shoot long range, and I still have my hunting rig, but it's not really able to do that because it doesn't have turrets that'll dial. So kind of getting into where we can start to branch out into the practical side of things.
Right on. So let's get into the gear talk. Everybody loves to talk about gear. So we both have new rifles that we're just finished building. So this is fresh in our minds as we talk about this. So this is all recent research and decisions. So let's talk about cartridges to begin with. So in these different types of rifle competitions, you're going to have open class and then more military rifle class. So if you want to stay within that military rifle and shoot with those cartridges, that's totally fine. If you want to shoot 308 Winchester or 223 Remington, that is totally fine. But both of us decided that we wanted to shoot in the open class because ballistically you can get a lot more performance out of a 6.5 millimeter or a 6 millimeter cartridge, and there's just more options that are better suited for long range. So Taylor knows a hell of a lot about ballistics, so he can tell you about like bullet selection and cartridge selection.
Right. So I don't know if I'm the expert by any means, but I like reading. So, the 6.5 caliber family, depending on which cartridge you actually go with, is going to give you just about every bullet you go with is going to be above 0.5 G1, which is going to be value added. You got to get into really heavy 308s before you're going to get into that same territory.
So what is ballistic coefficient?
So ballistic coefficient is a number that they use to describe how efficiently it flies through the air. So how much velocity it retains at distance. So, yeah.
So this using a thinner, longer bullet is going to have a higher ballistic coefficient than a shorter, fatter bullet.
Right. Yep. Yeah. And the other thing that's beneficial too is you can find a ballistically efficient bullet in just about every caliber, but the thing is at some point you reach a diminishing return where the recoil's heavy enough you can't see your impacts because you're still feeling the recoil from your previous shot. And in the type of shooting that we decided to do, you have multiple shots within a stage, so that requirement, it's not that the recoil is bad in any of these, but the recoil has to be like less enough that you can actually see that round hit target and you know where to adjust, or if you miss, you know where to adjust.
So another aspect is economy. So if you decide to shoot something a little bit more, let's say wildcat cartridge area, you are going to spend more on brass and more on custom dies for your reloading. So both of us decided to go with a more commercial, more available cartridge because we have brass support if you want to change your manufacturer of brass, and a wider variety of bullets to shoot out of it. The other part of it is also availability of load data and information about that cartridge. So there's a larger group of people that are shooting that caliber and shooting that cartridge, so there's more shared knowledge within the community.
Right. Yeah, I like Wildcats, don't get me wrong. I actually want to build a couple someday. I grew up around a couple Ackleys, but as far as for this game being focused on the objectives, that's going to get you where you're going to accomplish what you're setting out to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a recent poll done, and most shooters are saying the one thing that they want to improve is their win calls. So these guys are chasing velocity, they're chasing accuracy, but it usually comes down to the personal shooter and their abilities to read wind and to efficiently move through a stage.
And that's certainly supported in literature. I read one of the things that Brian Litz talks about is WES analysis, and to make this in layman's terms, basically that's putting a percentage of probability of hitting something on and like each factor basically at distance. And so if you think about it, your wind call is the most difficult part to evaluate and execute, and so that's the biggest variable. So like your chance of the thing that reduces your chance the most of making that shot is actually the wind.
So let's talk about actions next.
Okay.
So there's a ton of different actions out there. You can go full custom. You can spend the money to have a custom action made for you,
Which are awesome.
Yes, they are very nice.
Yeah.
You can get custom barrel, all that kind of stuff. You can get it based on different types of actions. So you can get it based on Remington 700, or you can go with Howa or Tikka or Ruger or whoever you feel like going with. But there's always a drawback if you decide to go with something more boutique. Similar with cartridge selection. Selecting an action is also can be costly if you decide to go boutique. So
Share data. That's the thing. The thing about it is with this, a lot of guys are running similar things, and when you're wanting to get into it, he's done more of the actual practical stuff, and I've been to a couple of matches, but and helped RO for one, but the thing that's important is guys can help you out, and they're nice and willing and able to, this is what's been working for me. This has been working for me.
So the next thing is barrel selection. We both went different routes. I decided to go with a factory barreled action, and you decided to
Put a custom barrel on a Tikka action.
Okay, so the process for selecting a barrel is pretty simple on a factory action. You buy it. And what is the process like for getting a custom action and a custom barrel?
People are really sometimes scared to get involved in like having a gunsmith do custom work, but I did my homework and found a couple of places I could do it, and actually visited the places that I went. I've visited about 3 gunsmiths out there too, and I bought the Tikka action and actually brought it. I didn't actually have it there with me at the time, but I was kind of shopping for a gunsmith, and I really am glad I did that. But basically, I picked a good barrel blank that is from a reputable barrel maker. I went with a Bartlein, which is 5R rifled. It's a little bit different rifling, and it's kind of actually become really popular in the industry now. But the barrel is the single most way to improve your accuracy as far as from the gun standpoint. If the barrel doesn't shoot accurate, the rest of it won't matter because it'll be all over the place. Mm-hmm. And so I decided to go with a custom barrel and choose a reputable gunsmith to do the work for me. So I went with Crescent Customs out of Kansas City. He does really good work, Moon there, and he actually got started with George Garner at GA Precision. So he was their head gunsmith for a while, and I'm sure he could tell the story better than I, but he did the work really well and enjoy being able to shoot his rifle. So.
Right on. So when you're selecting a barrel, what's important and what's not?
Well, there are a lot of good barrel companies out there. You got started out with when there was a smaller market. The big names were Krieger and Lilja and all those. But Bartlein's done good work. Frank Green there in Wisconsin, and they really have made a big splash in the precision rifle market. They make a lot of barrels, and they do a really good job. You're going to have to choose if you want to go with a stainless barrel, if you want to go with a chromoly. The stainless is good for obvious reasons. That with it being rust preventative, you're going to give up a little bit in hardness, but it's really cutting. It's really splitting hairs there. But barrel length is another thing to consider. One of the things you got to figure out is how much barrel you're willing to tote around. I wanted to get the velocity, so I was willing to go with the 26. I could have went longer, but 26 is kind of where it's ideal, and beyond that's diminishing returns as far as velocity goes. So a lot of guys will go shorter than that for various reasons. One, because they want to decrease the weight in their rifle, make it a little bit more man portable, or if they have a suppressor they want to shoot it with it. That's going to give you back to the same overall length as what I'm running. If you run, depending on what barrel length you go with, a lot of guys are running 22s with 22-inch barrels with a suppressor, and that's going to put you in approximately the same place as my rifle. If that's what you're going to do, then that's maybe a good choice. But with the 6.5 and the 6 millimeters, the 26 is definitely going to serve you well. You could go down to a 24 and not lose a ton, but.
So you also have the portability of the length. So an extra 4 inches on your barrel could mean it takes longer to move your rifle out of the barricade into your next position. So as with most things, everything's a compromise. You can't have everything perfect. You can't have the long barrel with the velocity if you want the maneuverability. You can't have the light weight without paying a lot of money for carbon wrap, and that too much information there. But you can't have the lightweightness and still have the rigidity of a thicker profile barrel. So it's all about trying to find that compromise.
There's a balance to everything. You have to choose what trade-offs you're willing to compromise and work with. So if you go with a straight contour, yeah, it's going to shoot great, really small groups, and it's probably going to not heat up too much because there's more metal there to heat up. But the trade-off is it's not very portable. And the thing is so like this profile is a medium Palma. That's kind of a good middle of the rotor that a lot of PRS and other practical rifle match shooters like to run. The nice thing about it is it's as much meat as you can tolerate and still be kind of manageable. Some guys like to go heavier, but not a lot of guys like to go lighter because it's just a nice balance.
You have increased barrel whip with a lighter weight and increased heat because there's not as much material to warm up. And that heat and that barrel whip and those increases can actually reduce your accuracy because it's changing your barrel characteristics. So a little heavier profile is good. Too heavy becomes difficult to carry around because you will be walking from stage to stage and you will be moving.
They're field matches.
Yeah, you're gonna shoot off different types of barricades, and you need to be able to move your rifle quickly.
And that's going to affect your times within the stage too, because in many cases you have to set up and shoot a particular obstacle like he was referring to. And one of the things that's important about that is how quickly you can set up and create a stable position will greatly affect how you can make a hit at range, because if it takes you the whole time for the stage to set up your first position, you're never going to get all the way through the course of fire.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
So it's about finding a balance within your rifle.
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about chassis and stocks. So what's the problem with a Tupperware stock that comes on your standard hunting rifle?
Well, it's going to mess with your harmonics for one, and if you're running a factory setup, you're already kind of needing that to be more ideal. So there's nothing wrong with running what you got, but if you're going to do that, it's really, really beneficial to either have it be bedded, which he's chosen to do in his stock on his starter rifle, and or go with something that's got an aluminum backbone within the chassis, which is what both our rifles now run.
Yeah. So. The other option is to go full aluminum chassis system. So the chassis systems are great because you get a lot of rigidity within the stock, and it's not going to flex. And so flexing and moving is not good, is not conducive to accuracy, because accuracy is about consistency. So in your rifle, you want it to always be bedded and hugging into that stock or chassis the same way every single time, have the same torque on all the screws. You want your cartridges to be consistent. You want a low extreme spread and a low standard deviation on your velocities. You want a consistent bullet seating depth. You want everything should be the same all the time. And going to a full chassis system will increase your stability within that. But you have, as with all things, you have trade-offs. So a lot of times it's more expensive to run a full chassis. And we're both starting out, and eventually we may move to full chassis, but right now we're both running more budget-friendly chassis stock setups. So there's lots of choices. Everybody's making great stuff right now. Magpul's getting into the game. They're going full chassis system, but it's not too bad of a price. You could go with Masterpiece Arms. They have really good chassis. A lot of guys like them. KRG has kind of some different hybrids to look at. Everybody's making good stuff now. XLR.
Yeah.
And a lot of factory rifles are now running chassis systems that you can get out of the box. The Ruger Precision Rifle, the Remington has theirs.
Graybo's into it too. That's a branch out from the McMillan family. It's not actually the same company, but it's I believe it's Kelly's son who got into that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So everybody's making good stuff. You could go old school fiberglass stock, McMillan or
Actually,
Manners.
McMillan has a budget stock now too. So yeah.
So everybody, the sport's growing, and it's great to see. And there's a lot of fun to be had, a lot of money to be made, and so everybody's trying to get their piece of the pie, and it's a competitive market out there. So when you're picking this stuff out, you got to think about return on investment, and what your budget is. If you are eating ramen every night, you probably shouldn't be buying a $1,200 Accuracy International stock and getting a custom action and all of that. There are factory rifles that shoot very well, and you can get into this for a very reasonable price. I decided to go with a factory action and a factory stock because it's a good budget. We went very different ways on optics. Mine is a step up from a very entry level optic, but it's still budget friendly. So my complete build is a little under $2,000 right now, and he spent more than $2,000 on the optics. So we're at two different parts of the scale. But everybody, this sport it's great because there are guys running full custom everything, and they got $10,000 rigs, and you got guys coming in with $1,200-$1,500 rigs, and it's all about community, and it's all about learning and having a good time.
Yeah, that's really what it's about. Like the whole thing, if you're not having fun, what's the point of doing it? And this is supposed to be fun. So, yeah, and I like to nerd out, so I like to read about it. That's part of the fun for me, but I'm ready to shoot, ready to get into it. So, but so one thing I'd recommend is they always say, buy the best you can afford, but that doesn't mean you have to break the bank, the biggest thing that's going to matter in this game is one, it has to be reliable in its tracking. That's the most important thing. If it doesn't reliably track, even if you can account for a known amount of error, that's the important thing. So if you go with a more budget-friendly scope, and you know that it has a certain amount of error, but it's at least reliably tracking, you can account for that. And actually, ballistic apps are out there to account for that as well. The other thing too is is it's really important. Even if you go with a budget type of rifle setup, to be able to magazine feed, and specifically the industry standard is going to be Accuracy International type mags. You can get a Magpul mag for $40 out there, or you can go with lots of different options that fit that same mag well, but that's really important in being able to complete your stage in the allotted time, so without having significant issues. And that being said, there are guys out there who top load at matches just because that's what they have. And if that's you, don't let that keep you from being out there, but just know that that's going to severely limit you to be able to finish stages faster. That being said, by going and being exposed to this stuff, you're going to learn more about gear and more about what you want. Guys are nice to let you get behind rifles and look at their scopes and play around with the turrets and maybe playing around with the turrets. Maybe not play around with the
If
turrets.
they have zero stops.
Right. So
Zero stops are important.
and check out the reticles, see what you like. The hard thing for me to decide was to whether or not to go with a Christmas tree style reticle or to go with a plain mill hash type of reticle. I kind of had to spend a lot of time looking at reticles and deciding what I was really okay with, because you don't want something too busy, but you also want it usable.
Mm-hmm.
And the reticle is really a ruler right in front of your face that you're going to use for many of the stages. If there's a wide variety of ranges you have to shoot within the stage, you'll hold one and you'll adjust your turret for one and then you hold for the rest, or you can use them for wind holds and stuff too. So it's beneficial to have a turret, a reticle that you like.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. I was shooting 4-round rotary mags at my first match, and it definitely taught me a lot about keeping calm and being able to load your rifle without freaking out that you have 30 seconds left and you haven't shot half your rounds yet. So definitely just, there's two ways to do it. You can do what I did, which was I ran what I had and I tried to learn along the way. Or you could go be a range officer at a match, and most people love range officers. So you're gonna get a few different things from going and being an RO versus just being a competitor.
See how matches are run, get exposed to gear, meet guys, get in contact with people. They'll let you, sometimes some guys will let you shoot their rifles or whatever between stages, or when they're done at the end. You can bring your own rifle and set it on the line and shoot your stage if you're helping out at the end. That's something that certain match directors will let you do. If they'll let you do that, I'd recommend trying it. That way you kind of know what a stage is like. So you'll get to see what the course of fire looks like and how they execute it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of match directors actually will have backup rifles. So if you email them or call them and say, "Hey man, I really want to get into this. I don't have a rifle," they say, "I got you. I have a rifle and ammo, and we'll get you going." And I don't know of any other event where everybody's just like is so welcoming and they want you to be part of it. And like, you'll come off the line and a guy that's been shooting for years will say, "Hey, this is what you did wrong. Your fundamentals are wrong. This is how you should run your turrets. This is how you should be, running your bolt handle." So they'll help you and develop, even though you're competing against them.
Right.
And maybe in a couple years you're neck and neck with them,
Yeah.
but they're looking for matches to be better. And
To get more people involved.
more people involved. The more people involved, the better the sport becomes.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes they'll even help you out too if you get done, sometimes they'll pull you aside and say, "Hey, that next time try like a 1.5 mil hold for wind instead of 1.6, or I saw you shooting under, it looks like you were about 0.2 mils low," or something, and help you out too. Sometimes they can help you out with stuff like that too and give you pointers and kind of learn where you maybe made a mistake and help you get better.
Alright guys, that's all we have for now. We have a build breakdown of our rifles coming out soon, so be on the lookout for that.
Thanks for watching.
And we'll catch you on the next one.